Section 2.6 is on ratios and proportions. A ratio is a comparison of two numbers by division, and it can be written in several different ways. We can write it like this: x to y, writing out the word 2. This also means x to y, but instead we use a colon instead of the word 2, or as a fraction, x over y, and that's how we're going to do it for the most part in this section. A proportion is an equation, so it's going to have an equal sign, that states that the two ratios are equal to each other. And here's an example of a proportion. 3/4 equals 6/8, because if I were to multiply 3/4 by 2 on top and bottom, I would get 6 over 8. So a ratio is basically the fraction. A proportion is an equation that says the two fractions are equal to each other. So to determine whether a pair of ratios forms a proportion, in other words, are the two fractions equal to each other, we're going to use cross products. And here's the rule that says that if A over B equals C over D, and B and D are not equal to 0, then A times D equals B times C. And perhaps you've seen it like this. The product of these two, A times D, has to equal the product of these two, B times C. So let's use cross products to determine whether this pair of ratios forms a proportion. So in other words, are the cross products equal to each other? Is 0.25 times 2, because those are across from each other, equal to 0.6 times 1.25? So grab your calculator and do that multiplication. Over here I get 0.5, and is that equal to 0.75? It is not. So no, these do not form a proportion because the two fractions are not equal to each other. Your final answer is no, but you do need to show your work. You can also use cross products to solve a proportion. So this is going to be a proportion that has an x somewhere in it. So this example here says x over 12 equals 3 over 8. What value of x makes this proportion true? So again, I'll use cross products. So x times 8, 8x, is equal to 12 times 3, or 8x equals 36, and dividing both sides by 8, and then reducing the fraction. So I can divide both top and bottom by 4, and that's going to give me 9 over 2. And actually I kind of like to leave it as a fraction since the problem started with a fraction. A rate is a ratio of two measurements having different units of measure. Probably the most common rate that you're aware of is miles per hour. So here's an example. In 7 minutes I can walk around the track twice. How many times can I walk around the track in a half an hour? So in 7 minutes I can do 2 laps around the track. Okay? So now it says how many times can I walk around the track? So how many laps can I do in a half an hour, which is 30 minutes? Solving a problem like this using proportions is really straightforward. The main thing you need to do is if I'm going to do minutes over laps, I have to do minutes over laps. And now I'll just cross multiply. So 7x equals 2 times 30, or 7x equals 60, or x is equal to, let me grab my calculator here, approximately 8.6 laps. And scale. Scale is a rate that's used to make a model of something that is really big or really small. Perhaps you've seen scale models of famous buildings like maybe the Washington Monument or the Jefferson Memorial or something like that. Here's an example. On a model airplane, the scale is 5 centimeters equals 2 meters. What that means is that 5 centimeters on the model is equivalent to 2 meters on the actual airplane itself. So if the model's wingspan is 28.5 centimeters, what is the actual wingspan of the airplane? So the scale is 5 centimeters to 2 meters. Now, I think it's really important to take the time and write the units on there so you can keep things straight. Okay? Then the model's wingspan is 28.5 centimeters, and notice I put centimeters on top. Then how many meters is the actual wingspan? So again, I'll be doing cross products. So 5x equals 2 times 28.5. 5x is equal to 57. And x is equal to 11.4 meters. So to sum up, a ratio is basically a fraction. You're comparing two numbers by division, and a proportion is an equation that states that the two ratios are equal to each other. And to solve a proportion, we use cross products.